camera on, it's absolutely fine. But just make sure there's nothing distracting in the background and put your mic off, please, so it won't distract other people. It will be recorded just for you to bear that in mind, and I would upload this on our YouTube channel afterwards. Right. Just a bit of a heads up on why are we doing this and why is it important to me personally. I'll tell you. The reason why I believe this is important is because I'm very allergic to conversations like, I'm just a nurse. Yeah. Conversations like that doesn't encourage me per se. And that's my motivation for this webinar to say, we're not just nurses. We are in the best place at the best time to advocate for our patient, especially in this world of AI. And that's why today's episode is important as well. And we're more than our titles. We're not I don't have to have digital in my name, in my job title for me to be digital in tune. And digital is not the most important thing. Is the how and is not the why. Our patients are the most important. And collaboration is our biggest leverage. We can't work in silos, we can't work in isolation. Collaboration is a key. Right. This is just from Professor ChatGPT. This is a progression of the um digital health competency that will be required for nurses in the future. As you can see, it's climbing, it's going higher and higher, and that's why conversations like this need to happen. And I'm excited about it. And I just want to spread that excitement to everyone. And so why is this important? It's important because if you're a tutor, you're a nurse tutor, as part of the future nurse proficiency, um, learning about the use of digital tools is very important as well. And also our code of conduct. That's the code that all of us we practice on. So our code of conduct even says preserving safety, yeah, protecting our patient from the world of and the dark side of AI is a responsibility and not somebody else's. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to be handing over to the two mats that we have that will be anchoring today's event. I'm not going to introduce them. I will allow them to introduce themselves. So welcome, Dr. Mort and Dr. Matt Hayden. It's good to have you on today's edition. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Tomaleo. I really liked your intro and how it mirrors what we see. So we're the Mats, we're at Cardiff University in medical genetics, and we've been doing this machine learning stuff for a long time. But now we're sort of helping people just upskill with AI, like AI in the workplace. And no one knows everything about AI. And that is really important. And what that means is we've got to have these conversations. We've got to be talking so we can figure this thing out. And we do think AI is a bit like, it's like a tool. It's like your assistant, you know, in the same way you'd use a calculator to get stuff done, it could be useful. So let's get going. So can you see the slides okay, guys? Yep. So we want you to try and use the chat as well. If you've got any questions, just drop them in the chat. Right. So AI in the workplace. When I say that, I want us to think of one word to do with AI in the workplace and just drop it into the chat now. It can be anything. That'll be running while we're doing the talk. If you've got any questions, drop them in the chat as well. Don't worry about that. So we're helping all staff upskill at Cardiff University. So that's like researchers, people in education. It could be admin staff, library staff, IT staff. And one of the things we've learned is AI is more about mindset than tech. So it's actually about mindset. And what that means is, if you've been working in a certain way of working for a long time, it can be difficult to try new ways of working. there can be like a bit of investment in different ways of working. So you just need to sort of play around with these chatbots to learn what works and what doesn't work. So learn by doing is the approach we take. We get people and staff to start playing around with them in the sessions, and then they take that into their teams, they talk about it, and they inspire other people. So play around with tech. If you're worried about data and you should be protecting your data, you can use this in your personal life. You know, you could be like recipe ideas. It's just playing around with the tech and what's possible. Start conversations, share knowledge. And I think that's what Tomaleo, what you're all about, is conversations. We can all share that info. Really good. So we take the view like AI is, we want a human-centric AI, so human first. AI should enhance human work, not replace it. So we're not talking about automation to get rid of people, more like use AI as an assistant, get rid of all the grindy tasks, manual repetitive stuff, so then you can do the stuff in your role that adds value. It's a bit like if you're doing meeting notes and it takes you hours, you could use AI to do that. You've got to check the output, make sure it matches what was discussed, but at least you're saving a lot of time. So adopt responsible use to mitigate risk. And once you start playing around with it, what we see is in the university, people see other ways they can build it into systems and develop and use AI in a more advanced way. But you won't get there unless you do the basic playing around with it.
So one of the important things to us is using AI responsibly. And the things you have to think about with that, first and foremost, is data privacy and protection. Obviously, if you're working in the NHS, you wouldn't just put patient details into ChatGPT. You've got to think about data protection very seriously because it could get you in a lot of trouble. Human oversight is important. You cannot just blame the AI when things go wrong. There's got to be someone in charge, someone looking over the system. Bias is a serious issue when using AI because AI runs off data sets. And if those data sets are biased, then you're going to get biased answers. And this has been highlighted in medical AIs, where if you think, I mean, my background was in genetics. So if I used a Western European data set on genetics and tried to apply that to someone in Indonesia, you'd start getting the wrong answers pretty quickly. So you've got to start thinking about biased data sets. And education and literacy, bad word to go wrong, is one of the things you've got to think about as well, because you need education on these systems. You need to know how to use them. I spoke about training data sets, and AI is all about the data, as we say. The training data set is the AI's library, if you like. That's where it goes to when it tries to give you an answer. And we've got an example here from one of the older GPTs, which is ChatGPT 3.5, just to show you what the sort of information is that makes up these data sets. 3% of it was from English language Wikipedia, 22% is Web Text 2, which is a data set. Now, interesting thing about Web Text 2, it contains a lot of information from Reddit. So if you've heard all those stories about someone getting completely mad answers, like how do I make the consistency of my pizza better? And the AI says, just put glue in it. Well, that's because someone's put it in as a joke on Reddit and it's found its way into the training data. 60% is from the Common Crawl, which is this huge metadata set. And it's important, again, when thinking about bias, to realize that 93% of ChatGPT 3.5's dataset was in English. And a lot of people find that it's difficult to use certain AIs in their native language because they haven't got the huge data sets that these big English-speaking American AI companies have. Hallucinations, you've probably heard about these. Hallucinations, fancy PR term, the AI gets it wrong. That's all it means. So I've got a good example for you here. I asked Claude, which is a AI chatbot, the question, a man and a dog wish to cross the river in a two-person boat. What is the best way to do this? And Claude, the chatbot, replied, Here's one way to solve this problem. The man rows the boat across the river, leaving the dog behind. The man leaves the boat on the other side and walks back across the river. The man picks up the dog and rows the boat across the river with the dog. It's gone completely bonkers with this, as you can see. And the reason for this is it's assumed that because the question I asked looked like a riddle, it should answer in the guise of a riddle. So you've probably heard those riddles about trying to transport a chicken, a dog, and some grain across the river. It's assumed I've asked this, and it's gone completely mad when answering because it's gotten very confused. So that's another example, actually, of bias in the data set. It had too much information on riddles in its data set, obviously. How do you avoid hallucinations? Well, when you get an answer from a chatbot, you can ask it for sources. You can try ask the question a second time, repeat yourself, maybe phrase the question slightly differently. You could try and break your question down and see if some parts of the question sound a little bit off, or you could ask the chatbot to elaborate. As we say, don't blindly trust the answers you get from AI. Always question them and make sure they make sense to you. We also say it's very important to be aware of issues associated with AI because there are issues such as an environmental cost. How much money is involved in these businesses that create AI? Misinformation is a huge problem, generating fake photographs, fake videos, that sort of thing. We must remember that we cannot neglect core skill development. And I think that's really important in education. For example, you look at nursing education, you don't want all your trainee nurses using ChatGPT to answer all their essays and their questions. You need to develop core skills. And copyright infringements, they do have a problem with ripping people's art and poetry and stuff like that off.
So now we're going to move to the practical side of the webinar. But before we say that, so in a work setting, you do have to follow your work policies. For us at Cardiff, so IT has approved Copilot for work tasks. And that means you've got to sign in with a work account to get that data privacy and protection, because you can use Copilot without signing in. You can use it with a personal account. If you do that, your data might not be looked after in the same way. So potentially, it might be used for training new models. So if you always follow your work rules, yes, but make sure you're logged in with the right account that work has advised you. That's really important. So you can do this task with any chat box. It's nothing, there's no work data in there. I'll answer that question in a minute. So if you log into Copilot, I want you to pick a number 1 to 100 and give a go. If you go on the website, the 100 use cases, which it should be in the chat. If you click on that, find your usage case and then copy the prompt. There's a ready to run example and just see what the output is. And then we can paste some of the output in to the chat here. Like if we tried it, what it said, if we thought it was rubbish, if we thought it was good. The thing is with AI, we've got to experiment, and it might not be good at everything, and it's probably not, but it could be useful at some things. So give one of these a go. We might have a go at one ourselves, and then we'll paste it in the chat and see what we get. So I'm gonna have a look. I think I'm gonna do preparing for interviews. Might do that one. Preparing for interviews. What number is that? 11. So scroll down to 11. And these are just to get you started, really.
I'm just wondering if everybody have an understanding of what we're doing at the moment.
All
Any
right,
question?
yeah, if you're not clear, just pop any questions. Basically, all you're doing is going on the website. There's 100 different ways you can use AI as a chatbot prompt. So it could be like content creation, planning a trip, improving your CV, whatever it is, pick one example. There's a prompt already written there that you don't need to type any new stuff in. Just copy the prompt, paste it into Copilot, and then if it worked well, maybe you just say on the chat, yeah, I tried that one, it worked well, or I tried this one and it went completely wrong. Because part of it is getting us all talking and seeing where it's good and where it's bad. I hope that's clear.
I think it's I've tried prompt 38.
Yeah,
Do you
what
want
did
me
it
to
do?
share the reply, or
Yeah, share the reply and
do you want me to copy and paste it in a chart?
yeah.
Yep. Okay. So it was prompt 38 when it's about relationship. Is it
Oh
about?
yeah.
Yeah. So I put in there, I said, I'm having communication issues with a colleague. Help me understand. Oh, I can't even see it now. Help me understand. Okay. I will just copy the feedback, paste it in a chart. Bear
Yeah.
with me 1 second. Right.
I use prompt 26 and I'm trying to paste the answer, but it's too long.
Oh, it's too long.
Yeah.
Typical, isn't it? Well, just maybe just the first part of it or the useful bit,
Okay.
or even if you just say it was good at this task.
It was really great because I think one of the challenges that we have is interpreting a mixture of medical assessments. So just a quick intro on the prompt. It says, help me understand UK NHS blood results. So the blood results were there. And then it says, create a list of questions to ask the company's occupational health advisor. So it had like 4 bullets on what you need to ask. It broke it down through lifestyle changes, impact on work, available resources in the NHS, and then workplace accommodations. It's amazing.
Oh, so that was useful and that's good though. Sometimes you just don't know what it's going to do, and part of it is the data set and the model is like there's a probabilistic element to it, so it might do different things for different people. So sometimes when we're doing the workshops, it'll say it can't do this task, but for someone else it will. So there's that to be aware of. And I'd say like always start a new chat. If you're going into a new topic with Copilot, it's a good idea just to start a new chat because it gets confused. It's
Right.
got like a conversation memory, around 8,000 words. And sometimes when that gets long, that memory gets a bit too full. That's when it's going to start making mistakes as well. So be aware of that. Long chats, more likely to get errors.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm reading
Copied
this.
I've copy and pasted the feedback. I think it's not too bad. I used Copilot, um, and yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, in my opinion, it's not too bad.
No, it's especially when you've got to think about the data as well. Like, and maybe Copilot isn't the best in its responses always, but it's definitely improved. But your data is going to be safe if you're in your work account. Like, if you're using a tool on the internet that you find that's free, they need to make money somehow. And normally it's using your data. And we had a guy at Cardiff, you know, they might have been reviewing chapters of the book. Part of the chapters end up online. Data breaches can happen. That's why we can't do shadow AI, where we're using our own tools, dumping, work data in there, because you don't know what's going to happen to it. So the data governance is an important aspect, which sometimes we don't think about. We just think of how good the tool is in terms of outputs, but you've got to look at the whole picture.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, the word count for Copilot changes. I mean, they did have a longer prompts with 16,000 tokens, they call it, which is parts of words. So it's around 8,000 words roughly. But it does change. On ours, it's got an upgrade, so it seems to allow bigger outputs now. So I would say AI tools are always changing. If you did something 6 months ago and you tried it now, it might be quite different.
Mm.
So like you've got to keep that perspective as well. Like maybe it didn't work then, but it might be better now. So have we got any questions about AI in the workplace or anything? And we'll try and answer them. You know, we're seeing a lot of staff feel stuck. They don't know what responsible use is. They feel like using AI is like cheating, so they won't be transparent. So let's say they use AI to review a report and then they make some manual edits. They won't tell their boss they've done that because they'll think the boss will be mad at them. But I say to them, like, you've got to be transparent so we can have these open and honest conversations. You know, if no one's saying they're using it and just doing it on the side, it's not going to help the conversation. So transparency is really important.
Yeah.
Yep, question.
Yes, I have something to just say. It's just like regarding, there was an assignment I had on data analysis. There was a course I was doing, and I answered it my own way, but I got like a response that it was not good enough. But when I used AI, I had good response. So I don't know, is it like, is it like AI is replacing all the marking criteria for everything that we use currently? Because I felt like, as you mentioned, like if you use AI to do some work, you feel like you're cheating. That's how I felt initially. But when I got bad feedback for my own work and I got good feedback for using AI, now I don't even feel bad anymore. I just use AI for all my assignments most times.
That's kind of a common theme. So like some students with us at Cardiff don't want to use AI, and I'm really like, yeah, because they want to develop their critical skills, and that's really important. And then there's other students that are using AI for everything, and they're not really using it in a responsible way. They're using it in a smart way in terms of they're not just copy and pasting from ChatGPT. They're saying, here's a copy of my writing style. Use my writing style and write this new essay. So we can't detect it. And I think what that does, it can then create a barrier to people who actually want to develop their critical skills, not use AI, but they're going to get a bit marked down because all the playing field has like moved up another level in a sense. So it can create this division, which is not a good thing. Whereas someone who is actually using their critical skills and saying, I'm not using AI, I think that should get additional credits in some sense. So we do this like traffic light system where we say, we want you to tell us how you've used AI. You can use it, try and use it in a responsible way, like help me understand what's important in this essay and review my text. Maybe you're not first language English, you know, and you haven't got confidence in your writing. You know, it's really good for that. You know, people can review their text. You know, have I come across in the right tone? Have I mentioned the right things? Can you check my grammar? Really useful for that to sort of bring confidence. But yeah, the critical skills, like me and Matt have been coding for like 25 years. So when we use AI to write code, we're not really losing our critical skills in the same way. But someone who's just starting in the coding area and they use AI all the time, they'll never develop those skills. So yeah, that's really important. Monica, did you have a question?
I had my questions on the chat. However, I would also like to come in on the conversation on the question that was raised. I think AI is useful to help you brainstorm so it doesn't feel like cheating. So brainstorm and structure how you want your paper to be instead of relying on it. And yeah, that's just like one advice because of course initially I felt that way as well, like, oh my gosh, this is cheating, copy and pasting this, and then saying like make this British English spelling so it's not so obvious. So yeah, brainstorming using AI, it's not cheating. And coming on the data analysis point of view, so I'm a nurse by background, but I do a lot of data, Python, etc. now. And of course, I didn't learn that in nursing school. So I'm using AI to help me understand SQL, how to write the Python code. And again, it doesn't feel like cheating. It is a guidance for me so that next time, so that next time if I encounter this line of code, I will know the structure now so that so that it will make me work quicker and more efficient rather than going back to AI again and inputting it.
Monica, that is a perfect use of responsible AI use. Like AI can really upskill people and it removes barriers in that sense because say you were scared to start coding, you can use AI to like write me a script for this. You get the script, then it's like, can you explain this line? I don't understand this SQL query. That's how that is a really good use, and that's responsible use. Yeah. So I think that is one use of AI which I would encourage people to use it for. You know, upskilling.
Oh, Lamidoto, you still have your hands up. Is that a legacy hand, or have you got another question?
No, I've had my hand up for a while. Just you haven't called me.
Oh,
Okay. So I just wanted to say, I think it's Monica, just took the words out of my mouth. I started using AI as well to upskill. I've worked, in occupational health and I've worked with like digital transformation, but it was until, I started using AI to actually understand how to learn programming languages. That was when I understood how, great a tool AI is. And I'm just going to say people should not feel like they're cheating with AI because, for instance, I didn't know a lot of things by using Excel spreadsheets initially, but I was able to learn how to do like pivot tables. I was able to learn how to use Excel for data analysis. I was also able to learn how to do SQL. I recently started working with SQL, say about 6 weeks ago, and I was confused. It's like saying you're going on Google to go and search how to learn SQL, and then there's like so many things. But then ChatGPT was able to, direct me and navigate like the best websites to actually learn, the best courses to actually take. So I don't see it as cheating. I see it as, being smart or working smart and using the tool to your own advantage, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's using it to its strengths and it's working smarter, definitely.
I think SQL is a fantastic example because it's almost like this arcane magical language that nobody understands. And if you can go from English straight to SQL to structure your query, that's fantastic. I think that is a great use of AI.
It does remove that barrier. And what it actually does is if you're developing apps as well, instead of an app where you've got to work out all the buttons, you can quickly do an app that uses natural language to query a data set. You just put a large language model in between and you can build it into your software. So something we talk about is using large language models, that's like the ChatGPT, locally. You download them to your machine. There's a place called a Llama where you can download these models and run them. Nothing goes over the internet. You can pull the plug on the internet and you can run these models. Yeah, you need a decent-ish machine, but the smaller models you can download that run pretty good. And we use these to build into apps. So we can develop software that actually has AI features and it's built in, so it keeps your data safe. And you can really learn about them as well. Like, if you want to take your sort of data science to the next sort of level, you can start using local large language models, you know.
Just
Thank
to
you.
Thank you. Just to double check on the last point you made, Mark, you said it's not as if you're saying that downloading those LLMs locally is safer than using it online. Is that what
Yeah,
you mean? Right.
definitely.
So if I want to use, say, ChatGPT, I don't know what the latest model, I don't know what the latest version is now. It's better for me to download the app on my laptop or my phone. Yeah.
So not ChatGPT, the app on your phone, that's all on the cloud somewhere. Just
Okay.
because you've got, this is a different way altogether. So this is LM Studio.
Oh,
We can
right.
is it's an app basically you download onto your laptop, whatever. You can download a model, they're about 4 gigabytes. And then any queries don't go online, they just stay on your machine.
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
front end for it. So ChatGPT is all online, Copilot is all online, Claude is all online. This is like locally, and the open source models as well. So that's one of the good things about them as well. Like these companies, we don't really know what they're doing with the training data and all the details. There's not much transparency in the industry. But when you're using them locally, you sort of get a figure of how they're working a bit more. They might not be as good as like this cloud stuff because that uses a lot of compute power and this is
Mm,
just running on your laptop.
mm,
But still, it helps you understand what's going on and
mm.
build it into more of your software. So like you could use that to take, like we have student feedback. We don't want to send that online. So we just push it through a local language model and say, discover topics for each student feedback request. And then we get a file and then we can process that.
Right. That's really good to know. And I think a big part of what you've talked about today is the first one for me is understanding that nothing is free per se. That
Yeah,
there's no free stuff in Finland, in Freetown. That
no,
if we see any free thing online, if we jump on it without thinking through it, we can give away our data without thinking about it. And now people say data is the real oil, data is money. People use
yeah,
the data without not realizing. I think that's the first bit for me. And the second one you talked about is understanding that it previously people were just running on our feet, but now with the use of AI, the goalpost has moved a little bit. We are running on like a Ferrari now at the moment. So we have to learn how to use that responsibly so that we'll be at the same level as others because things are moving really, really fast. So I think that's the two key things that jump out at me. And thank you
yeah.
very much. I'll stop talking now. Shola, you've got your hands up, Shola.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi.
I'm Shola. I have a question in regards to the results from some of these AI tools. So I had a presentation that I needed to complete, and I had prompted ChatGPT to create the presentation, and the prompt that I placed was quite simple. It wasn't in detail, and it's like ChatGPT overperformed for me. It produced a presentation with great icons, designs, visuals, and I was really happy with it. And then I prompted it again to include another detail around something that was missing from the presentation. And what I noticed it did, it it basically presented something completely off from what it initially showed. And I was a little bit surprised. I was like, oh, why did it do that? I didn't know that it couldn't recognize what he had initially done to now present something that was less fabulous. And so I guess I'm trying to understand, why does it do that?
Yeah, that's something that happens actually a lot and in different ways. So part of it is it's a probabilistic model, right? So that means there's like a random element of, that's why if two people put in the same prompt, they might get different outputs. So rather than a Google search, which hopefully there is other factors in it, but if you Google the same stuff, you expect your rankings to be similar for the pages. You're not going to see that with AI tools that use like large language models in the same way, because it's probabilistic. So that's the first point. There's this random element of where it picks to then generate your idea from. What that means is then it can't amend something it's already sort of outputted. So like if it's developed an image, it can't go back and you say like tweak that image and remove that. It's got to sort of start from scratch almost. So a hack to get around that is once you'd got your presentation out using that basic prompt,
Yeah.
you could have said like, generate me a prompt that would generate this exact presentation. And then it'd probably give you about a paragraph of text describing in a bit more detail that would have got whatever you wanted. And then you would edit that with the new content you wanted. So just put it in wherever that fitted and then run the new prompt. It wouldn't have been exactly the same, but it would have been a lot closer than the way around you tried it. But that is common and a lot of people run into that same issue.
Right. So that's really good to know, because I guess I've never experienced that before. And then the other thing in regards to when it generates like a PowerPoint presentation or generates the document, it then sometimes the link now becomes invalid. Is that because it has a period of time that you can access it by? It's not something you can come back later to try and download it.
I've not seen that. Sometimes it might be, it's like, kind of like an error, I think, with their system rather than intentional. But I don't know. I've never had a link that's just disappeared on ChatGPT, but I'm more using Copilot and Claude for my sort of AI tools.
Okay. All right then. Thank you very much.
That's all right. Does that answer your queries though?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think in regards to the link, it may be just a broken link or invalid link. That's what it said.
Yeah, it might have been just like a one-off. When they've got high demands on the servers, you're more likely to see that sort of thing. We see it with Claude, we see it with Copilot. It can get glitchy at times, and then it'll ease off and be fine.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's all right.
I think there was a question in the chat about the use of
Oh.
Copilot for patients. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it's Monica, you asked that, didn't you? I'm just going to go back to the joke. Can we enter? Yeah, this is for Monica. Can you enter patient data in Copilot since your organization okay this? Do you want to expand on that, Monica, or you're happy with it? I just read it.
Yeah, so since the organization has given you a co-pilot license and they're like, okay, use this so that you can make your reports quicker, etc. Either patient data or occupational health data. For example, an occupational health nurse wanting to organize their occupational health report for one of the employees. Are we allowed to put in patient details?
I would run that by your health board, and my concern there would be that you might need consent from a patient if you're going to enter their details into something like this. I would be very careful putting yourself in a position where you could accidentally leak confidential information like patient data. Yes, I wouldn't want to. Don't put yourself in any career jeopardy by doing that without asking first.
100%. And so I had a follow-up question. Where can our organizations obtain nationally recognized guidance to model our frameworks that we want to implement? Because I work in private healthcare, and I haven't seen in our private healthcare space anyone who has an AI policy. I've seen some in other hospitals like Moorfields because they are using DeepMind for Google for eye images. So I'm not sure, like, who is the guidance? Like, I've looked at MHRA as well, but yeah, help me out.
No, it's a difficult area in that sense, and we're involved in sort of helping develop the policy for Cardiff University, and that's like, because it moves so fast, that is quite a difficult challenge. And what we're doing is looking to find guiding values, basically. Like, what are our guiding values? And then that will help drive policies. A lot of universities are just looking and seeing what other people are doing. Like Glasgow's done quite well, Warwick's done really well, and looking what positions they're taking, what policies they're developing. So I think it is getting inspiration from other people, but I think it's about people talking within your org as well as what's going on. And it is difficult, and it's still a work in progress for loads of people. I think everyone's in that same boat.
I think everyone's quite afraid to be the one to stick their neck out first. There's policies for civil servants and such has come out on gov.uk in the last couple of weeks. But as for your specific organisation, I would try running it by your IT department first, because, you know, as I said, you don't want to be the first person to wander out across the minefield just in case.
Yeah, again, it's quite complex in healthcare, right? Because
Yeah.
there's one for civil servants, one for healthcare. It's quite complex. Tommy, one last question. I'm so sorry.
No,
I don't
that's
want to hug everything, but
That's okay.
when I was listening to your presentation earlier, you mentioned about training data sets, etc., so that it prevents like hallucinations or having the incorrect responses. So I'm familiar with clinical data sets, so I'm more in the context of healthcare. So there is a product from Elsevier called Clinical Key AI. So for that, just sharing, the data sets that they use are from peer-reviewed journals, evidence-based stuff, nice guidelines, etc. Why can't we just all adopt this in healthcare so that we prevent hallucinations and we have like an honest AI system that will not hallucinate because of the strict data sets? And just to close, my question is, Tommy, like you said, we're running like a Ferrari, and I think we need strong brakes as well. So governance, ethics, and a lot of collaboration and talks, which is not looked at. We're just going and going.
That's a really good question. The training data is really important, and part of that training data, you know, so they scraped all this stuff from the web, and it's about understanding language rather than as a way to sort of find information. So when they're like scraping all them web pages, it might be junk information, but they learn about language, like slang language, formal language, whatever. So that's when they started with. Now, the reason why it can't answer things that it doesn't know. So in that training data, it hasn't seen all of PubMed at all. So it's seen bits of PubMed, bits of papers that are online somewhere, maybe a bit that are in PubMed Central, the free bit, but definitely not all of PubMed. So it's never going to be able to answer a question on files and PDFs behind a paywall. So what happens is it augments that data with web searching, and it'll include like maybe 20 results from a web search. So it's still not going to see much of PubMed at all. So that's why these tools, they've got access behind the paywall, which they're probably not willing to sort of allow everyone to access. So it's about them journals and making their data available. And I think that is really important, because that's what research is about. It's like freedom of information to better progress. So I think that's something that should be changed. You know, if these AI chatbots had access to all the papers, we'd get much better results. You know, there would still be hallucinations, but it would be much reduced.
I'd say as well that hallucinations in general are being reduced because they're adding little tricks under the bonnet to these chatbots. For example, it might ask the question 3 times and then check if the answers are all similar and then give you the overall answer. So that lots of these little tricks are stopping these hallucinations from actually happening. So the data is getting better and better, but still always check your output.
Yeah. That's why it is creating a market for specific tools, like for journal searching, we've got Elicit, and there's a market for that because ChatGPT and Copilot can't access all the literature. So that's why specialist tools are often better
Yeah.
for, especially in healthcare and medicine.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much for the lovely questions. Any other? Does anybody go any? I can't see anything in the chat box, but I'm just thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking from a nurse's point of view. In my head, I think 80% of the persons on this call are nurses, and the question in my mind is, going forward from today, what is that thing that should change as a result of the conversation we've had today? Because like I was chatting to you, the Matt, initially I thought, oh, AI is just a little bit over my head, a little bit, like, oh, I'm a nurse and all of that. But I guess for us, I think it's good for us to go away from here and start thinking from a nurse's point of view, what is my responsibility? What is my take on this? And start thinking about that and start looking at how to apply that knowledge about responsible AI, about understanding how AI behaves. How do we apply that in our everyday lives? And most importantly, how do we Monica's put add pie in the chat, yeah. And how do we help our patients as well? So yeah, I don't know if you got anything to share on that.
I would say that's in two parts almost to me. So like, be curious, start playing around with it, because we don't really know everything it might be useful for in a work setting. Like you can try different stuff and you say, oh, actually, that'd be really useful for nurse rotas. So there's one element, like play around, be curious. The second one is where we say to look for places where you can use it effectively. And what that means is look at things you're doing in your nursing role that are not adding value. So the things like, I've got to fill out this form 100 times and then do X, Y, and Z. That might be a sweet spot where you could use AI, save time, so then you can add value as a nurse where it really matters. So it's like using your time wisely. What things that you do you want to do more of? And if you think about that, then you figure out where you don't want to be spending your time, where's not adding value, and look for AI in those spaces. And then sharing that across. Like everyone on this call, like in 2 months' time, they'll be in a completely different place, and they'll say, I'm using it in 3 places in work. It's saving me 4 hours a week, and I'm going to try some more stuff. And then you build on that. But by sharing, then someone else can have a go at that sort of area as well. So it is sharing then as well.
Perfect. Great news. Carry on.
As nurses, always think about data protection, have that in the back of your mind all the time. Please don't get yourselves in trouble. And I'd say biased data sets as well. Think about some of these tools that you're using. Are you seeing bias in them? Are they making the correct recommendations for your patients? I think that's always something to be curious about.
Use them on things you know about. So like, say there's a task that you know what the answer should be, and maybe it's a bit medical. You could put it in and then see, does it match what I would do? And then if it does, you can build confidence in it for that sort of area and then try something else. So I'm not saying use the AI to do it. I'm almost saying use it alongside sometimes as a way to build trust in the system and understand what it's good at and what it's bad at. Because it's not good at everything. Like numbers, these are language models. So they're not great at maths, but what they are good at is writing code. So instead of getting it to do the maths itself, you say, write a script to do X, and then you run the script yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much for that point. And it also got me thinking about seeing ourselves as nurses, as clinicians in a different light, in the sense that instead of us waiting for people to do stuff for us, we are part of that change. For example, we start seeing ourselves as subject matter experts to in places where if there's a request in our workplace, oh, we're going to do something with AI, we as nurses too, we should take our chair because normally, maybe sometimes they don't tend to invite us in the first place. We tend to be at the end of, oh, we've done this, go ahead and use it. So I think with this knowledge is to understand that we need to carry our chair and ask for a place to sit in that place when there's conversation about use of AI in our workflows, when it comes to affecting our patient. Because with that understanding that we have now, we can say, no, that's not right. We can ask those questions that where is the data from, right? As Black and ethnic minority group, is that data inclusive of that data? Yeah, it's start asking those questions. And I totally agree with the math that AI is not over our heads. It's here to stay, but we have to understand it and then carry on that skill and be part of that conversation instead of waiting for people to do stuff for us. We can be part of making that change to happen. Yeah.
Definitely. And
Please.
even more than that, like you guys are actually like innovators, like you're showing leadership in this, you know, you've got a nursing degree and then you're learning how to code. Is a question? You're learning how to analyze data. You know, that's really like that's something that we should be showing off, like how resourceful you guys are. And that must be part of what you do in your job naturally. It's just like you've got that skill set that allows you to explore and try these new things. Because at Cardiff University, we got people who, if there was more people like you nurses, we'd be a lot further down the road. So yeah, you're showing leadership on this. Great.
Please, I've got a question. I don't have that icon for raising hands. Sorry.
No,
That's
carry
okay.
on.
Okay. I wanted to ask for those in leadership roles as nurses. I've heard several you guys mentioning that it may not really be we should be careful in using it in imputing patients' data due to GDPR. So I understand that those in leadership most of the time is more of admin, roles for nurses, and some of them tend to struggle in responding to lots of emails. And is there any way this AI can help them to, make that aspect responding to emails, make it faster while protecting patients' data or, confidentiality?
Yeah, I definitely think there's ways you can do that using like Copilot without breaching that. So you could have it to sort of draft a first draft of a reply. You could sort of anonymize the input stuff, so you're not putting any patient identifiable bits into Copilot. You've definitely got to be using Copilot or an IT approved tool for that. So not ChatGPT. It's got to be Copilot in general. It's not really frictionless at the moment, but it's going to be moving to what is called AI agents, where almost like it'll triage your email and auto respond to some of those queries automatically. That's in the sort of more expensive versions of Office 365. But with the standard thing, you'd have to use Copilot copy and paste situations. But AI agents are available, and that's something that will be coming in the next year or so.
Thank you.
A question there, or hand still up?
I just got a question to back up what you just said. I know that for Gmail, we now have the AI assistants. Do you think that would come to Microsoft? Because most NHS trusts, we use the Microsoft Outlook. Do you think that, they're building something like that would help us and would have, better I don't know, functionality in terms of data protection and things like that?
Yeah, that already exists.
Okay.
It's the one that you can say like, check out my emails. You can query your emails basically using, as you would Copilot, find me an email to do with this. I'm sure I had a message, but it doesn't come up. You can say like, build me a spreadsheet based on these 3 emails, whatever it is. And it will triage and answer. So it's all about money as well. It's extra money to do that, but also with the data. So when you use the AI functions, the Microsoft agreement with them, the data has to go into like an extra secure place, and that costs money. So that's why these things might be expensive as well. So they might not cascade down to public organizations, even though they would save a lot of time, because it's a bit like that iceberg. They don't want to fork out money, even though it would save them money in terms of productivity.
So essentially, some trusts may not be open to, buying that extra function that the, application or the web page can do.
Yeah, because like there's Teams Premium, right, that records, does your meeting notes, does all fancy AI features. So that's an upgrade. It's about £22. So like that might save a lot of time for people, but it's an upfront cost. So they can be sometimes against that. Even though it would actually save people time and get more work done.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. I'm very conscious of the time. We have 6 already. It's gone very quickly. I know you just saying that times flies when you're having fun.